Gallagher.
I'm Molly.
And we are so excited to welcome you to our first episode of Mindful Moments, a video podcast committed to bringing topics related to childhood cancer into the conversation. We have both been through the unimaginable, and I can only speak for myself, but I feel like nobody has ever grasped just how much this part of my story has impacted me. It's altered everything in my life. And I know this is the same for so many other fighters and survivors. We hope to give those affected by childhood cancer a voice and a platform to share their experience with childhood cancer.
Like Meg said, we are both cancer survivors, so we have both been through an unimaginable roller coaster of emotions and treatments and surgeries and all these different things. And we both thought it was super important to talk about what we've been through and not only help ourselves, but also help others. Meg, do you want to tell us a little bit about your story?
Yes. Also, welcome.
Hello.
Hello. So I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia 8 years ago, December 23rd, 2015, so 2 days before Christmas. I was 13 years old at the time, and I was on vacation with my family in Oregon for winter break, so I was in 8th grade at the time as well. And I just remember having symptoms on the plane on the way over. I was really tired. I had bleeding gums, and I almost passed out, and just never got better when we got to Oregon. My parents thought, oh, she'll get better, it's vacation, it's fun, but they had thought I had mono, but ended up, my doctor ended up ordering a blood test after my mom sort of relayed to her that she was worried, and I got a blood test and then was called a little bit after to go to the nearest ER. I went to an emergency room in the middle of nowhere, and then was transferred to a children's hospital in Portland, Oregon, where I stayed for the first month of my treatment. And then I fought for 2.5 years. My treatment was prolonged due to complications, including a pancreatitis, a fungal meningitis infection in my brain, a severe blood clot in my right arm, steroid-induced diabetes, and just things in between that, I guess. It was a really rough journey, and I just feel like I've come out of it so much stronger, but I've also come out of it deeply traumatized, and it's something that I've talked about a little bit, but I've never really gone in depth about. And I think this is going to be a good place for not only me, but you and other people who we have on as guests to do. So, Molly, tell us about your story.
Well, first of all, thanks for sharing. As someone who also advocates a lot, sometimes it's hard to talk about things you've been through, and even though to other people it might not seem like it was difficult for you to talk about, sometimes it's a lot harder than people think. So thank you. Mm-hmm. I was diagnosed with stage 3 brain cancer in August of 2019, and for me, I got sick really fast and kind of out of nowhere. I had symptoms, but I didn't really think they were anything because you never really assume you have a brain tumor. You never really assume you have cancer. So there's a beautiful picture of me. The last few months of my summer, my senior year summer going into freshman year of college, I started getting really sick every day. My head hurt to the point where I would literally be able to do nothing but kind of sit in my bed and scream because I was just I'm in so much pain. And I was really active still. I was driving, I was hanging out with my friends, I was doing all the normal, teenage things right before you go to school. And then I very quickly, in 2 weeks, I lost 25 pounds from getting sick every day, and I was becoming non-functional. I couldn't hold conversations. I was laying in my own throw up, which was really unpleasant. And my mom was like, okay, we're going to the hospital. It's time. There's nothing else we can do. Obviously something's wrong. And so I had a scan, and they found a tennis ball sized brain tumor in my right parietal lobe. I had a 6-hour brain surgery. And on August 15th, I was diagnosed with anaplastic ependymoma. After that, I've had a lot of different treatment, radiation. I had a chemo. I have had 3 brain surgeries since, and now I'm very proud to be sitting here talking about my story, like you said, not just for the benefit of myself, but for other people who are going through something difficult or have been through something difficult and feel like they have no one to talk to. So I'm super excited to be here with you, Meg, and be here with anyone who might be watching live or after this comes out on YouTube and all the different platforms. But yeah.
Well, Molly, can you tell me a little bit about, like, I know we've both connected with lots of people through Instagram and Facebook, and we've talked about wanting to have guests on who are friends of ours. What has it meant to you to connect with people who have gone through the same experience as you, and how has that led you to, like, this, I guess?
Yeah. Advocacy is really difficult, I think, in any aspect of your life. No matter what you're talking about, it's a lot of work. And then when you're talking about something that's really traumatizing and something that changed your life the way that cancer does, it's really difficult. And you know, there's so much to say and there's not a lot of easy ways to say it, right? Like right before we went live, we were just talking about how sometimes it's hard to read super long posts. Sometimes you don't want to listen to like super long podcasts, but you don't want to feel alone, right? So it's like you're on this island. You feel like you have very little, if any, support at all, just because you don't feel like anyone understands what you're going through. And I think that with any trauma, with any injury or sickness or anything like that, it's so easy to be like, well, no one knows how I feel because of A, B, and C. And you can't compare any cancer diagnosis, right? Like, obviously, what both of us have been through is really, really different. Someone who has the exact same type of cancer, who's my age, is going through something extremely different than I am. But it's just that sense of community when you have someone to talk to that's super important. Like I found you, obviously, as well, and a lot of different friends, Kerrigan, Katie. I have a friend, like a bunch of different friends, and even if we don't talk every day, it's just like if I'm having a really, really, really rough day, something cancer related, I know I can just call you and be like, hey, this is how I feel. I just need someone to listen. I just want someone to talk to me about it. And I think that's something a lot of people, especially our age, lack. So I'm very excited to do this with you.
I think that's sort of what led me to do this, is because I was like, oh, I have this crazy idea. I'm going to start a podcast. And I reached out to people at Arms Wide Open and True 365. And they're like, oh, maybe it's not a crazy idea, Megan. I was like, what about Molly? Because I've always admired your advocacy. And I think you've talked about lots of things that I feel personally. And just talking to you on the phone, like behind the scenes, we're sort of in the same place in our life where we're going through these things as a survivor. And I think this is why we want to do this, because we both get it and we know so many other people get it. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. It's okay.
That's okay.
Going.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I think that when I got sick, I'm really, really, really lucky in the sense that when I got sick, I don't remember much of it. Like by the time I was sick enough to be going to the hospital for my scans and my first surgery and up until the day I was diagnosed with cancer, there's a solid 2 weeks of my life that I just don't remember. And that also is when I started my advocacy, because as soon as I got sick, and everything I'm telling you is regurgitated information because, like I said, I don't remember it. But when I got sick, people were texting me because at first we didn't know if it was cancer. We just knew I had a really, really massive brain tumor. And so people were texting me like, oh my gosh, like, are you okay? Like, what kind of cancer is it? And I was like, whoa, like, we don't even know if it's cancer yet. Like, we got to go one step at a time. And so I immediately was like, I don't like that people are talking about myself and my trajectory that way. So I'm going to like take control of the situation. And I immediately posted on Instagram and was like, here's what I know. I'll update you when I know what's going on. because they have a really great support system. Like before I got sick, the community which I grew up, I was born and raised in the same town, and I was super involved. My family was super active in the community. Like we did a bunch of different things. So I immediately had an outpouring of support, and it was easier to tell everyone that way than reaching out individually. So that's how my advocacy started. And from then on, it just like kind of made sense. I was like, I'm going to talk about the way I feel. I didn't want to watch my hair fall out, so I got a group of 50 friends and we all cut it off. And I shared that, and just since then, it's definitely been a roller coaster, as you understand, because not every day's the same. Like sometimes I feel like sharing information, and sometimes I feel like being totally private in my room with all the windows shut and no natural light for 72 hours. Like sometimes that's how it goes, right? But I also think that people like you and people like Mike and Dina, who are helping us out with this, and Truth 365 and stuff like that, we don't have to talk about things that we don't want to. We can talk about the things that make us feel comfortable. We can understand each other in a way that doesn't feel judgmental. And I think that if advocacy was easy, everyone would do it. And that's why not a lot of people do it, because it's so hard. But it's also really rewarding for both parties, both the advocate and the people watching. So can you tell me a little bit about what your advocacy has done for you outside of cancer, like how it has affected you just as a person, like not a cancer patient, but a person?
Yeah, that's a good question. I started sharing. So I run a program that does toy drives twice a year. Because, like I said, I was diagnosed close to Christmas, and on Christmas Day, I was gifted a sack of toys. And there I am.
How cute you are.
And I think it was the following year, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna collect toys and give them back to my hospital, because I knew how much joy it brought me to have toys on Christmas Day. And then that summer we were like, oh, we have leftover stuff from our holiday toy drive, and this hospital is in need. And so that's how Christmas in July was born. We figured out that that is a time of year when the hospital is not getting as much donations as like the holiday time. So I do twice a year toy drives. About 3 years ago, I started sharing what I was doing publicly on Instagram, with Megs Giveback, and I sort of noticed all of these other people on Instagram who are part of the childhood cancer community sharing their story and having an outlet and being able to connect with other people. And I was never a big person on, like, I never did Instagram when I was younger because I was only 13. And don't get me started on age, how old you should be to use Instagram, because I can go on, but I didn't really use it that much. And so I was just thinking, when I started this 3 years ago, this would have been like a great way for me to connect with people while I was in the fight, because it's people who get it. And as a survivor, even though I'm like almost 6 years off chemo, I still feel like I can connect to these people, whether it's like a mom who's sharing her daughter's experience, or a survivor who had cancer like 14 years ago as a kid,
Yeah.
who's around my age. But your question, once I started doing that, I sort of found my groove. I've always liked to write, and my mom is actually a really big advocate and always had been when I was younger, and did some public speaking, and now has so many public speaking opportunities. Go, Christy.
Go
Um,
Christy.
yeah, I was asked to do a speaking engagement maybe like 2 years ago, and I just really liked it, and I had a good response from it. And I've done several more the last like 2 years, and just found out that I liked it, and was, I already said that, it's okay. My brain is working. Um, it means something to me because perspective is really important. I also started writing just different perspective I had on different things that I was going through as a survivor on Instagram and Facebook, and being able to connect with people that way. And it's just really important to me as someone who's going through this You said before, like, it's like being on an island. I describe it as being in the middle of an open field with nobody there and just looking up and being like, okay, who's there? Like, I just feel so alone in what I'm feeling. And
Yeah.
I'm dealing with after effects and just other unrelated health issues the last 2 years. And I started sharing what I was going through, and just it's been very cathartic and therapeutic, and it's sort of given me a purpose that I didn't realize I needed in my life. And I decided, like I said, I'm going to do a podcast and I'm going to do it with Molly, and this is going to be great. And yes, that's my answer.
That's a great answer. Oh, well, thank you for your comment. That's very sweet. I think that this kind of thing, and I have to give a lot of kudos to Meg, because starting this kind of thing is really hard. Especially something that Meg and I have talked about behind the scenes is like trying to find who you are outside of your diagnosis. I mean, I was 18 when I was diagnosed. I am turning 23 this summer, so I'm coming up on 5 years, which is kind of crazy. That's really crazy. But it's important. Oh, see, and there's a bunch of different people who we're fighting for. Yeah, I love that picture. But and my hair is so different. But what was I just talking about? Oh, trying to find ourselves outside of cancer. I think when you're diagnosed, or for me, when I was diagnosed, I was like, oh my gosh, nothing else about me matters. Like, especially because I was advocating, and especially because I was sharing so much personal information online to a bunch of strangers. I was like, all that you guys know about me is that I have cancer. Like, you really don't know who I am outside of it. You don't know that I love A, B, and C, and I'm really good at this, that, and the other, and I'm also terrified of sharks. I'm not terrified of sharks, but
I am.
are you?
Yes.
No, I would love to scuba dive with sharks. That's one of my bucket list items. Like, in one of those cages, I think it'd be so fun. But
I
anyway,
have like that fear that's like, I don't know what it's called, but there's like names for every fear, like the deep dark ocean.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
love.
don't like what's the unknown of that.
It's okay. We won't go on a cruise together then, I
Well,
guess.
I love cruises. I just don't think about it. Don't think about it.
That's funny. But I think that finding yourself outside of cancer is incredibly difficult, especially when it's all you can focus on. Like, when you're in survival mode, it's like you just got to get up, you got to go to treatment, take your pills, try and sleep as
It's
much
like
as you
this
can.
same thing over and over again, right?
Yeah, it's like Groundhog's Day. Every day you wake up and you're just doing
yeah.
the same thing.
You
Yeah,
know, like for me, leukemia, the treatment protocol is so like set that they even started me on treatment before they even did the bone marrow biopsy and like confirmed, because it's that set. And it just felt like I knew what I was doing, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna win. And I finished, and then I got out of it, and I was like, what do I do now? Like, I also realized in the last like year, I have no idea really who I am beyond being sick and fighting these after effects, and beyond being a cancer survivor. And
yeah,
I think that's something Molly and I want to talk about, because it's really important for us for people to know that we're more than that. And yes, we're doing this podcast to talk about all things childhood cancer, but we also have this part of our life that is normal. Like, I just worked today and I'm coming to do this now. Like, we just it's a balance of
yeah,
living a somewhat normal life, and then also being a cancer survivor where things can randomly trigger you. And sometimes I'll have a trigger and I'll just feel paralyzed, because it's just like it brings me back to that moment in my life where it was so scary, and you didn't know. I mean, you knew what tomorrow was going to bring because of what I just said, but also at the same time you didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring.
yeah.
It's just, it's a lot, and I think there's so much that to unpack. we had this whole long list of things we want to talk about, and we hope that you'll tune in every week. It's going to be Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the next 2 months or so, and then we'll figure out what's next. But there's so much we want to talk about. And yeah. Molly, do you want to tell us who you are beyond being sick?
Oh goodness. See,
Survivor?
yes, that's a and it's so funny you say that, like, who are you beyond being sick? Because, like, I look at all of my friends who have cancer, like anyone who I know who has had cancer, and I look at them. Obviously, I know they've been sick, right? But I don't care. Like, I care that they're sick because I care about their well-being and I want them to be okay, and then I care that they're going through a terrible, awful thing that really, really left a huge mark on me in a lot of different ways, positive and negative. I care about them in that way. But also, I say I don't care because it's never, ever, ever, ever going to be the only thing that I see in them. And it's never, ever, ever going to be the most interesting. And so it's hard for me when I look at myself, because even though I see you that way and then I see all of my other friends that way, when I look at myself, I'm like, oh gosh, like without that, who am I? Without that, like what do I like? And of course I know I like a bunch of different things. I'm studying school. I'm in school for musical theater. I want to be an actor on TV and film, and I love to sing. That's a huge part of my life. It always has been. And I'm lucky in that way because, you know, when you're a little drama queen, you are used to an audience. So I became really good at public speaking really young. And so I love that part of my life. I love to travel. I'm a sister. I love spending time with my friends. I love cooking and baking. There's so many different things. But what about you? Tell me the most, like, if you're gonna meet someone, what do you want them to know about you?
Well, it's interesting what you said because I sort of just found a best friend in the last like 2 years, and I feel like childhood friends are different, and finding friends in your adult years is like you choose each other. And
Mm-hmm.
she just like we'll go to Barnes and Noble and we'll go get Mexican food, or we'll one time we sat in my room and threw a scrunchie back at each other and then put something on top of our heads and tried to knock it off with the scrunchie. Like, just you saying that, I can tell that that's not all that I am to her and all that I am to these other friends. And I don't know. About me, though, again, like you said, I love to travel. Like, I would live on vacation like that. I just want to be somewhere else all the time. We went to the airport the other day to return our rental car, and I was just so mad that we were at the airport, but we couldn't go anywhere. And I like was convinced. I was like wanting to ask strangers where they were going and see if I could tag along with them in my suitcase. Like, I think it's so meaningful to me to travel now being a survivor, because we went to Colorado and I just remember walking around this lake and being like, "Oh my god, thank God that I'm alive and that I'm here to witness this."
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing about me. I get excited about everything, like even stupid things. Not that it's not stupid, but like it's like little dumb things that you wouldn't think would be exciting, but to me it's like the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
That's something that comes along with like feeling deeply. I'm someone who feels very deeply that it's like intimidating sometimes. Um, I love entertainment. I love music. Some
Who's your
favorites:
favorite artist?
Olivia Rodrigo and Taylor Swift. Noah
Did you
Kahan.
see she came out with Olivia Rodrigo came? Oh, look at you! You're little 22. Did you see Olivia Rodrigo? Her deluxe album dropped.
Yeah, her spilled. Yeah, we were listening to that today. It's so good.
It is good.
And I really like Broadway. I've been really lucky living in DC to see some really wonderful shows at the Kennedy Center, and I love hanging out with my friends. I just feel like I've found really good people lately, and people who respect who I am, and um, I don't know, are very kind and genuine and care about how they make me feel. And I think that's really important to have, especially with someone like me who I feel like has so much baggage.
Yeah.
Um, like we're just navigating, and I think that's what we're going to talk about next week, but we're just navigating what it feels like to have that much that you've been through, and navigating friendship and family, and feeling like you're not burdening them with everything that you are.
Yeah. No, I think that there's so many things before you get diagnosed with cancer, or even after you are diagnosed, if you just like, you just become so much more aware of all of these different aspects that go into it. Like before I got sick, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about the research. I obviously didn't know how it felt physically, mentally. I think you see someone is diagnosed with cancer and you're like, oh, that really sucks. Like that must be really hard. And it's like, you have no idea, right? Like, yeah, it's really hard mentally. It's obviously incredibly difficult physically, treatments. Emotionally, you feel so detached from the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I never want anyone to experience that. I hope no one ever has to. The reality of it is that people will, but if in a perfect world, no one would ever have to go through it again. But I think that like feeling like a burden, you just go through all of these things and you experience so many like ups and downs and tragic lows that you just sometimes feel it's like, oh my god, like it's just so heavy, right? Like that's something we can talk about. That's some hair loss I had from treatment. You can see my incision and then you can see the big bald spot. That felt like such a burden on me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I spent all of this time growing out my hair. Before I was sick, my hair was down past my waist, like super dark, thick, healthy, like curly, like awesome. And then after I got sick, it's just not the same, right? That
Mm-hmm.
bald spot will always be with me. And that's kind of a burden to me, right? Because I'm like, not only is there the mental baggage of like feeling like I'll never be able to let this go, now I have this physical mark. And I'm lucky that my hair's grown in a lot there, but it's still there, and it's still something like tangible. Like every time I'm brushing my hair or I'm trying to style my hair, that bald spot comes out, and I'm like, oh, like how do I move on? Like how do I keep going when I can't even look in the mirror and feel like I'm normal? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Well, I've been trying to like not have this like being a survivor be the main thing. And so I think I get traumatized easier because I'm not thinking about it as much, and it catches me off guard more. But there's
mhm,
like my port scar right here. Every time I see it, it just brings me back.
yeah.
And I just feel like anxiety and sadness. Like, why did this have to happen to me? And it just makes me mad. Um, but it's just, I don't know. It's a whole thing. I think we have a comment. It's very sweet. I'm really sorry about your daughter. Um, we hope to bring voices to parents like you as well on this. And hopefully, you'll see some people, if you watch when we do that, and be able to relate to them and what they're going through.
Yeah, that's a great comment. I think I don't know if it was Meg or I who initially said the word normal, but that's something we can talk about for a little bit too right now is the idea of normalcy.
Mm-hmm.
When I was sick initially, like my first time, I was the thing that stuck with me the most is like I'll never be normal again.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never feel like this ever again. I'll never be healthy. I'll never. And then there's all these things that go through your mind, right? And normal is so hard because it's so subjective. It's like, what does that mean? Like my normal life, excuse me, I'm sick today, so I've got a stuffy nose, but my normal life just day to day is different than yours, right? So what does normal mean? And after you have cancer, there's just no such thing anymore
Mm-mm.
at
It's
all.
like I said at the beginning, your life is altered, and I truly feel, like I said, misunderstood and alone, Dina. I see a comment from Dina. I don't know if Mike has put it up, but she says, "You guys are not alone. Thank you for expressing what so many other survivors are feeling." Oh, there it is. Yeah. She has helped us put this together. But what was I saying?
Just like the concept of normal, like after.
I don't know. I just feel so strongly that what I'm feeling on a day-to-day basis of going through like work and school and friendships and being a daughter and a sister, and then at the same time there's like at the back of my head I'm like, okay, I've been through something so traumatic and something that has altered everything, and it's never going to be truly 100% the same again. I think that's what I've tried to come to accept is I was 13 when I was diagnosed. I had a whole childhood before that.
Yeah.
um, and I never got sick. I like broke a bone twice. I never had an IV. The first time I had an IV was when I was diagnosed. Bless you.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I don't know. It's just like I wish that it could be the same in some way. It can't be the same because that was childhood, but it also I my brain is rewired. I feel like your brain just changes as you go through this, especially when you're like an adolescent or a young adult, because that's like the key times of like your brain developing.
Right.
Therapy taught me that. Everyone go to therapy.
Go to therapy. Therapy is awesome.
And so I just feel like the way I think about the world, the way I think about my life, the way I feel every day is so different than what it used to be, and it makes me really sad sometimes to think I am such a deeply traumatized person, and there is so much hurt that just is deep inside of me just because of everything I've been through, and it's frustrating and it's lonely and it's isolating, and I do feel like everyone in my life, as much as they care, as much as they try to learn, there is no way they're going to ever be able to like fully comprehend what I've been through and what I still go through and how much this has affected me. Like, I hope that they'll watch this and maybe see sort of like a little bit of what I go through this, but nobody's going to be able to understand this is the thing I want to talk about too. Our story, like, it's our story.
Right.
Nobody can tell us how to feel about it. There's no timeline on it, like, to moving on and getting better. Like, it would be great if we could live out this beautiful life, which hopefully we will, but we're still going to be traumatized and we're still going to have PTSD. Like, we're still going to have scans and blood tests and like follow-ups, and because I know for me it's blood tests and for you it's scans. But there is no going back to what it was before cancer. Yeah.
Well, I think too, it's like, and like you just said, like for me it's scans, for you it's blood tests. Like our cancers are so different. Like the trajectory of us with treatment and surgeries and follow-up appointments, like every case is so different. And like I said earlier, like even though I might have the exact same cancer as Billy Joe right next to me and he's the same age as me, diagnosed at the same time, all these things, it's like he's going to go through something completely different than I am because we're different people. His emotions are going to be completely different. The way he decides to handle it is going to be completely different than me. The way his family, his community, like everything is so subjective to that person. And I think that something that you and I have also talked about is it's our life now. Like it's not the most important part of our lives, but it's a massive part, and it's all we know. Like for the past 4.5 years, all I've known is how to be sick. And something that people don't really talk about either is once you're not physically fighting anymore and you're not going through like active treatment and having like active appointments every week, you kind of become a little bit lost because you're so used to, okay, this is my schedule. I'm going to the doctor. I'm getting a blood test. Then I'm getting a scan. Then I'm getting treatment. It's like here, A, B, and C. These are the things you need to do to survive. And then once you're kind of out of that, and you don't have that like strict schedule like you have to follow, it kind of becomes this thing of like, what do I do now? Like
Yeah. What happens next?
what happens next? Because the normal was the doctor's appointments, even if it wasn't every day, even if it's like over the span of a year, it's like for that whole year you're just focused on survival. Like you're just focused like, I gotta get out of bed today, I gotta brush my teeth, comb my hair, take a shower, and then simply heal. Like I just need to either like heal from this blood transfusion or like take care of my incision. Like there's so many different things like that. Or like today I just gotta try not to have a seizure. Like for me, it's like I gotta take my meds and make sure I'm not putting myself in a stressful situation to where I will seize, especially if I'm not home, right? And then once you're kind of out of that, it's like, how do I put one foot in front of the other? What are the steps that I need to do to move forward as a human being, not a cancer survivor, but just a person on my own? And that's hard because you don't have anyone telling you what to do. You don't have.
There is no guidebook, no manual, no cancer survivors for dummies. Like your mom actually said something to me at once. She said that has stuck with me forever. Shout out to Bunny. Yay.
Yay.
She said, "You girls deserve not just survive, but to thrive." And maybe it looks like on the outside too that we're thriving. Molly's in school. I'm working. I'm doing well. Like I'm happy, but I don't know. It's always going to be a part of me. And that's something that I've tried to teach people in my life, that it is never, never over. And we are everything that we will do for the rest of our lives. This will be a part of us, and it will impact our decisions in life. It will impact everything. And it is like part of our identity. We are both survivors. We are both 22-year-old girls, young women, and there was so much to us, like we talked about. Molly likes to travel. I like to travel. Molly can sing. I cannot sing. I can sing with Adele in the car. Nobody sounds
We're
better.
gonna have one episode where it's just Meg doing karaoke.
Okay, I'm so down.
Okay, me too.
One song that actually got me through treatment was "Don't You Remember" by Adele, and my nurse sent me this video like a couple years ago that she took of me just singing the song, and I was like really sick looking and bald and just like the tiniest voice. Like I had the tiniest voice. And that was fun. But I can sing a little bit, but not like I'm gonna go to New York sing like Molly. Molly, get Molly to sing. If you want Molly to sing, comment. I don't know comment, but everyone's saying Molly sing.
You guys can look it up on YouTube. I'm not doing it live. It's on YouTube somewhere.
Did your mom didn't you sing at, what's the place in New York? Because I actually was in New York like a year ago and we ran into each other at Serendipity, which is serendipitous. I think that's what people said. I don't know. It's like, I forgot.
Serendipity. It's a great restaurant.
Yes, they have really good frozen hot chocolate.
Yes, that's the best thing on the menu. That is
so good, so good. But you can find Molly singing Survivor, some song.
There's lots of different videos.
You can find Molly all over YouTube, but we'll get her to sing on here.
Only sings Adele.
What?
That's the trade-off. You have to sing that Adele song, and then I'll sing for you.
Can I do "Make You Feel My Love"?
Of course, I love that song. You can do anything you want, Meg. Take the world by storm.
It will not be good, but it'll be okay. So
no, it'll be great. Everyone can sing. You'll be great.
Except for my dad. Hi, Dad.
We can just have like one episode where like we don't even talk. We just sing. Everything's a song. Yeah. Back to business. What were we talking about before?
I don't know.
I don't remember either. That's okay. We'll just make something up. Let's talk about. Let me look at our list real quick. Let's talk about something for a little bit, just for fun. Let's talk about.
We can elaborate on maybe friendship right now if you want.
Oh yeah, that's great. Let's talk about friendship. So
Let's talk about friendship.
Let's talk about friends. It's funny because we've both said to each other so many times when we're talking on the phone, we're like, okay, wait, we should save that for the podcast. Like, let's save that for the podcast. So it's funny because like I don't want to say all the same things, and I want to say some of the same things, but I don't remember exactly how I said it. But I talked earlier about like community and how I was really lucky that I had a community before I got sick that just expanded once I had been diagnosed. But I think that something a lot of people don't recognize is how the I'm trying to say this in a way that makes sense. Your real friends definitely show up, and you learn very quickly who your friends are not, like who you can't really trust long term, and not to say that they're bad friends, they're just not your go-to people.
One of my favorite shows is Parenthood, the TV show, not the movie. And one of the characters gets cancer in like season 4 or something. I'm not gonna tell you who, but you can go watch it. But like she goes, I guess I told you, she meets like a friend that she meets at the cancer center, and she was like, "I'm gonna tell you something. You're gonna be diagnosed, and people are gonna start to surround you, and then you're gonna slowly start to get better." And people are going to start to go back to their daily lives, and that's when you know who your true people are.
Yeah.
I remember at my end of chemo party was where I noticed certain people slipping away, and it just was so weird to me, because I think one thing that I said to Molly was, yes, I was sick and you were there for me, but I think when I needed you the most was afterwards, when I had no idea what I was doing. Like I had just gone through something so tragic and scary, and it changed me. I also told Molly on the phone at one point, like, I felt like I was frozen in time for 2.5 years. I was 13 when I was diagnosed. I came out. I felt like I was still 13. And I had to I was actually 16, but I felt like I was 13, and I had to figure out what was socially acceptable for a 16-year-old, what was emotionally acceptable, like how do I communicate with people, because I didn't know. Like I felt like I was so behind in life, and I've always thought that I was crazy for it. Like people decided that they didn't want to handle me instead, so they looked the other way, and it was something that I had to sort of deal with, because I felt like, this is deep, but like I felt like, okay, I just survived cancer, but my life doesn't matter anymore, because people made me feel that way. Because it was like I had just been through this whole thing, and when I needed you the most, I don't know, I was very behind. I was very young, like, because I was in middle school, right? So middle school and high school, like beginning of high school, is when you learn all of these things. Like I had a friend recently tell me something about that was trending on Snapchat, and I was like, what? Like I didn't even know people did that, because I didn't do Snapchat. I was busy getting chemo and surgeries and being in the hospital. Like
Yeah.
I was still watching Disney Channel. Like
There's nothing wrong with still watching Disney Channel. I still watch Disney Channel.
It's so good. Mouth forever. Lemonade Mouth is like still okay, but
Yeah.
and now I have found amazing people. I have a friend who I was like a little bit hurt by something, and I sort of didn't know how to tell her, because I'm so scared of pushing away the good people. And so I just want to say the right thing. And she was just like, I'm so sorry. I like never want to hurt your feelings. What did I do? Do you want to talk about it? And I was like, oh my God. Like, this is how people are supposed to speak to you. Like,
Right.
this is healthy friendship.
Right.
And I had childhood friends, and everyone has childhood friends, and you sort of grow apart from your childhood friends. It's not common to stay in touch with them. But for me, it was so different, because I had gone through something, and I thought that it was normal to like still have those friends. And I hold on to people, like I grieve people longer, I think, because of just the timeline and the way everything happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so grateful for the people in my life now. like they truly bring me joy. I wake up every day and I'm like, okay, I have these great people in my life. I saw something on Instagram that was like, life, like really the main reason, like the main purpose of life is to like hang out with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Or and one day hope find someone you love and spend
Yeah.
your life with them, and like human connection and people in your life. I think it's just I could go on and on about it because human connection just means so much to me now.
Right.
I almost died. Like, I have been through so much. I appreciate life on this really deep level and just these people that I have. Like, I was sitting in church a few weeks ago and I like caught the eye of like we didn't look at each other, but I like was seeing someone in our church and I was like almost started crying and like teared up a little bit because I'm like, I just love you guys so much and I'm just so grateful for you because
Yeah.
I have really been through the ringer with people, friendship, because of the age I was when I was diagnosed. And now that I have these great supportive people, like, I just feel like it makes me feel complete.
I'm
What
the
about
same
you?
way. Well, I'm the same way. I think that I've always been, and I don't want to say overly loving because, like, to me, I don't feel like I'm being overly loving. Like, I just feel like I'm expressing how I feel. But, like, I've had some very unfortunate friendships in my life. I have not always picked great friends. But on the flip side of that, the great friends that I do have are unbelievable. Like, I if I love you, like, I'm just gonna come up and be like, you make me happy. Like, I'm so glad you're a part of my life. And sometimes that scares people because
Mhm.
not a lot of people are like that, especially not a lot of people like our age.
No, not our age at all. No.
But like if it's like your birthday, I'm gonna be like, oh my god, happy birthday! I bought you 18 presents and a thing of donuts, and I wrote you 17 love letters. Like, like I just because like you said, like, I'm so grateful for the good people in my life because I've been through so many traumatic things and I have seen the way that they have shown up for me. And my favorite thing to say is, like, whenever someone asks, like, my friend is sick or my brother is sick, like, what should I do? Like, what can I do that's helpful? My favorite thing to say, and the first thing that comes to my mind is, I'm like, just show up. Like,
Mhm.
it doesn't even have to be physically. It doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be every week. But be comforting. Like, send a text every once in a while. Be like, hey, I'm thinking about you. And I think that maybe some people think I'm overbearing because I'll just be like, hey, thinking about you. Or like if I have a friend who's sick, like just checking in. And like, I don't need a text back. I don't need you to, if
Mhm.
you want to text me back, text me back. But if you don't want to text back, you're not in the right headspace, like, just know that you have somebody in your corner who is willing to listen to you, who loves you and cares about you, and not just because they want the attention of you being sick, or not just because they feel bad for you, but because they genuinely, like, want to know how you're doing.
Yeah.
That those are the best kind of friends. Like, those are the people that when I'm sick or when I'm not, I'm going to go to with every good thing that's ever happened and all the bad things that have been hard for me. And I'm very lucky that I have a handful of friends who are like that. And I think you're one of them. I think my best friend Amy will always be one of them. I have my sisters, my mom's great, a lot of different friends with cancer, and I think it's just finding those friends is so important when you're going through something like this. And for some people it takes a longer time than others, but once you find those people, it's like, I'm never letting you go kind of thing.
Have you ever done a vision board?
I haven't. Have
Well,
you?
we've been doing them for the last 3 years, and I think it was last year. I usually put lots of quotes on mine, and one of my quotes was "Choose people who choose you," and that was like what I focused on that year. And I feel like I found people who chose me. But recently, I saw a different wording to it. It said "Choose people who genuinely choose you."
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm a sucker for a quote. Like I just feel like I love them. If you follow me on Instagram, it's like that's just what I post. I like share quotes that I see through other Instagram pages, and it's just I don't know. It's do you ever feel like people think you're weird for being like deep thinking and like, oh my god, I love you, I'm so grateful for you, this is why you matter to me, like you just pour your heart on the table or whatever the phrase is. Like I feel like that's how I am to people. It
Yeah.
was like a few years ago. I was sitting on a dock at a lake house and I just felt so like at peace with life. It was just me out there. And so I randomly just texted like 6 people, or not that I know just 6 people, but like I just thought of people that I wanted to say I'm grateful for you. And I just, I wanted them to know that they meant something to me.
Mm-hmm.
This was something that's so different about us at our age. Like we think about the world this way and we think about people in life this way, and it's rare, and I wish everyone could be like that. Like I wish people weren't getting bullied in high school, because high school kids just don't understand how precious life is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want the kids to remember that they have a childhood and stop going to Sephora and spending their life savings. Okay.
Well, it's sad because I was not a kid. Like I mean, I still feel like I'm a kid. I think I'll always think I'm a kid. You know what I mean? Like a part of me will always be in 6th grade. Maybe it's my sense of humor, but a part of me will always be in 6th grade. And and I think about how much I've been through and how awful it was to be diagnosed when I was 18, right when I'm supposed to be gaining my independence, and it just felt like it's so heavy on my heart because it just felt like I got slapped in the face with like 10 million bricks, right? It's like, here's this great thing, you're about to move on, like bam, just kidding. Now you get to suffer, right? And how do you handle that? And I think about that, and then I also think about, like you just said, like you have all your childhood. I can't imagine being diagnosed when I'm 13. And then but you can't get into the comparison game, right? Like you just can't compare those experiences, and you never should, and you never even want to think about it. But it just kind of puts some insight into like being grateful for what you have, and trying your best to like express gratitude. It's so funny to see some of these pictures that I haven't seen in a really long time, because it brings up so many mixed emotions, right? It's like, oh, like I was so sick in that picture, but I'm still smiling, and I'm okay now, right?
That's the
It's
thing
like,
about kids is they smile through the whole damn thing. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's just, we are so young and in these like pivotal growing times in our life,
Mm-hmm.
and you get sick and it's like, I'm not going to let this damper my spirit. And then afterwards it's like, I survived that. Like I have the rest of my life. It's going to be hard. Like we've talked about, we have a lot that we have to go through and a lot that we feel. But if you take one thing away from this podcast, I hope you take many things away from it. But if you take one thing, it's to live every day like it genuinely matters to you, and be excited about the dumb things like me. Like just be excited about every little thing. And even if people think you're weird for it, like I should practice what I preach, because I still worry about what other people think, because I'm 22 years old. Like I'm not, I mean, I think my mom still worries about what other people think.
Yeah.
But live every day like it matters to you. And I'm gonna make shirts that say that, and then we're gonna sell them. Just kidding. I just came up with that. Live every day like it matters to you. I've never worded it that way. If you want to buy a shirt from us, let us know.
Just let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I think that it shouldn't take something completely life-changing and terrible to make you think that way. But
Yeah.
also like,
That's the thing. Is it shouldn't. We should all live that way.
but
But
sometimes it does. Sometimes it takes like a big eye-opening moment or event to be like, oh my gosh, like I've been taking this for granted. Like something I took for granted that I absolutely don't take for granted anymore is walking up and down stairs. It is such a small thing, but like after my first surgery, I was in physical therapy and occupational therapy every day for weeks, and it took me forever to walk up and down a flight of stairs. It took me so long. And now every time I see a flight of stairs, a little part of me is like kind of excited. I'm like, I'm gonna go up and down these stairs, and it's gonna be a breeze. And then of course I get to the top, and I'm out of breath because I'm so out of shape. But
everyone, I think that's how everyone is with stairs. Like, I could write a TED talk about that. Like, everyone, doesn't matter if you're out of shape, you're in shape, you're gonna be out of breath after you go upstairs.
yeah,
But I like have a vivid memory of being with PT in the hospital, and I was so frail and so weak that I couldn't even walk down one stair.
Yeah.
Like, I remember how impossible that felt. And, like, my dog would even, like, when I was home, would wait at the bottom of the stairs for me until I got all the way up, and then he would come up.
Yeah.
Now he, like, doesn't care. Like, he'll be right behind you and underneath your feet, and I'm like, Pudge, I'm going to wipe out, and you are going to be to blame. I'm going to be, like, in the ER because of you. It's okay, I love my dog. But, like, it was just so cute how he would do that because he's a dog, but he understood that
Yeah.
it was hard for me. And there's simple things in life that are easy for everyone until something like this happens, and you don't realize what a luxury you had in your life to be able to do those things.
Yeah.
Whether it's like take a shower by yourself. I don't want to get into details, but like I couldn't even do that for a
Neither
while.
could I, girl. Neither could I.
Going to the bathroom, like it's just a whole thing. Walking upstairs, like going to bed, like not that I couldn't fall asleep, but like it was just laying in a hospital bed. There's a lot that has to be adjusted for you when you're so sick, and
And they wake you up every 2 hours anyway. So
there is no sleep in the hospital. It's like hello, and yeah, we are getting the cue to wrap this up. So we just wanted to say we really hope you enjoyed this first episode, and there's a lot more to come. We have like a long list of stuff to talk about, and we talked about like not very few, but a few things today, and there's still more to talk about. And we're going to be reaching out to friends and families to have guests, and you'll get their perspective and take on this too.
Yeah, and we have an Instagram. It's called Mindful Moments with Meg and Mol. If you have any questions or any topic ideas, or you want to be a guest on the show, reach out there. I think we're also going to make a joint email soon, so that'll be coming. And
you can also reach out to the Truth 365 or Arms Wide Open on Facebook, and they'll relay the message to us if you want to be a guest.
Yeah, but thanks so much for everyone watching. Like Meg said in the beginning of "Hi Mom, I see your comment." The purpose of this podcast is just to hopefully make others feel not alone, and to educate anyone who is trying to be there for someone or just trying to understand a little bit about what it's like, whether it's for a sister, a brother, a family member, a friend, or just because you want to learn a little bit more about it. Megan, I'm super proud of you. I know that this has been a little anxious of a day trying to anticipating this, and it's obviously our first little time we've done it. So I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. I don't know if people know this, but we can't see who's watching. Mike will like post their comments. So it literally, I was saying, it feels like a fancy FaceTime. Like it feels on FaceTime with the logo in the top corners and like, yeah. So it felt great. I think this is going to be a great journey to go on. Yes, that's the other thing about me. I talk like a Hallmark card. You'll hear
and I love it. Who doesn't love a Hallmark card? You know what I'm saying? I love a Hallmark card.
Love Hallmark cards. Plus love the Hallmark store.
Yeah, I know, me too. Like I said, when we're overly expressing and loving, my favorite thing to do is write letters. So that's a good one. Yeah, but thank you again so much for watching.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. I'm Molly.
I'm Meg, and this is
Mindful Moments.
We'll get it.
We'll practice.